You can kill more than 100 million people with just one bullet if you kill the right person. The general story of the start of World War I is well known. Gavrilo Princip, a Bosnian Serb, assassinated Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria and his wife, Sophie, in Sarajevo on June 28, 1914. The shot led to bitter internecine conflict that raged for nearly half a decade, and that would claim somewhere between 15 and 22 million lives. But that number doesn't include all the second and third order effects related to the Great War, which is what I want to talk about for a few minutes. Second and third order effects are long-term and longer-term ramifications of an event, and there's an argument to be made that we're still living in the world created by World War I. But for now, I want to focus on the dead. The most obvious second order effect of World War I is World War II, which would begin just 2 decades after the Treaty of Versailles. Somewhere between 70 and 85 million people are thought to have died as a direct cause of World War II, including soldiers in all theaters, as well as victims of famine, disease, and the Holocaust. For simplicity's sake, we'll only consider the low-end death estimates going forward, or estimates that are generally agreed upon. So between World War I and World War II, we have 85 million deaths on the low end. Now let's go back to the 1910s. We left out the deadliest scourge of the age, the Spanish flu, which collaborated with the war effort to put a dent in humanity's numbers. One of the first recorded cases was at Fort Riley in Kansas. The overcrowding and unsanitary conditions, part and parcel of warfare at the time, created a perfect breeding ground for the virus, which spread and spread. The first and second waves hit in 1918, while the third wave hit in 1919 and continued into 1920. The Spanish flu is thought to have killed somewhere between 25 and 50 million people worldwide in just a couple of years, though some estimates go as low as 17 million and as high as 100 million. Though I see the 50 million number come up most often, we'll peg this at 25 million for now. Between the 2 world wars and the Spanish flu, we're at 110 million dead on the low end. The effects of World War I gave rise to the Russian Revolution, and through that, the Russian Civil War. Between 7 and 12 million people are thought to have died because of it, which brings our low-end figure to 117 million. But we're not done yet. A second-order effect of the Russian Civil War was the eventual ascent of Joseph Stalin. There's a literal Wikipedia entry called Excess Mortality in the Soviet Union under Joseph Stalin, which estimates 7 million on the low end and 20 million on the high end. These figures include the Great Purge, the Holodomor, the Kazakh famine and other famines, Gulag deaths, and more. Our low end figure is now 124 million. World War II also helped engender the collapse of the nationalist government in China and the establishment of the PRC by Mao. Policy decisions by leadership led to the Great Chinese Famine, persecution, executions, and other brutalities. This is a third-order effect of World War I. 40 million to 80 million people died because of these policies, and so our total jumps from 124 million to 164 million. Further third-order effects were other conflicts in Asia. The Korean War, which claimed 2 to 3 million more lives, the First Indochina War, which adds 500,000, and the Second Indochina War, or the Vietnam War, which adds another 1.4 million on the low end and 3.6 million on the high end. The Khmer Rouge adds another 1.5 to 2 million. Iran suffered a famine between 1942 and 1943 as well, despite neutrality. Its resources were commandeered by the British and Soviets to deploy during the war effort, which led to more suffering and privation. The death toll is an estimated 3 to 4 million. The Persian famine took place between 1917 and 1919, again in Iranian territory and again despite professed neutrality. 2 million died during this time due to hunger and disease. Vietnam suffered a famine in 1945, which contributes another 500,000 to 2 million deaths, while the Bengal famine of 1943 contributes another 800,000 to 3.8 million. Another 1 million died during the Armenian genocide. The partition of India killed another 200,000 to 2 million people. The Algerian War caused between 1 million and 1.5 million deaths. The Malagasy uprising in Madagascar adds another 100,000. Another 200,000 during the Eritrean War of Independence over 30 years. Another 500,000 during the Rwandan genocide. The Spanish Civil War adds another 500,000 to a million. The Greek Civil War adds 150,000, another 140,000 dead during the Yugoslav Wars. The Guatemalan Civil War adds another 140,000, 100,000 during the Congo Crisis, 800,000 during the Angolan Civil War. The collapse of empire and the rapid decolonization of Africa and Asia was a consequence of World War II, itself a consequence of World War I. I also failed to mention the United States' involvement in regime change. After all, the US became the predominant superpower as a result of the World Wars, and used some of that power to effect regime changes all across the world. That has likely caused hundreds of thousands of excess deaths, and likely more, across dozens of countries. Eventually, I want to take an in-depth look at the period between World War I and today, but we'll leave it here for now. Our low-end estimate comes out to 186 million, and certainly misses dozens of conflicts, revolutions, famines, and more that I overlooked. On the higher end, perhaps 360 million. The real number is somewhere between the two. Tell me what you think. Correct me where you think I'm wrong, and offer your own numbers and interpretations. This is an emotionally charged topic, after all. People will go for the lower or higher number depending on what points they want to make, which is fine. I'm curious to hear what you all think.